We just do the things that are real inherent problems that people are probably facing today on their current platform. So a lot of times when I'm out there talking about our platform, I'm always like, here's like 11 things that people wish they could do on a product. We do those things because they're things that as a marketer, I needed to do and I believed I needed to do. So I built it that way, unlike others.
Welcome to our podcast From the Ground Up, where we interview startup founders exploring their journeys, lessons learned, challenges, and everything that goes into building a thriving startup. I'm your host, Jake Aaron Villarreal, and excited to have with us today Jimmy Kim, founder of Sendlane. Welcome to the show, Jimmy.
Hey, Jake. Thanks for having me on.
Great. Well, just a little background of Jimmy. Jimmy is from DC originally, living in San Diego now. He's the founder and CEO of Sendlane, former retailer and owner, and 14 years of email marketing. Sendlane has raised a Series A and a Series B round of funding. They've provided a unified platform for email and SMS marketing. Today, they send over 40 million messages a day on behalf of their clients with a vision to empower e-commerce brands everywhere through the deep data and behavioral-based marketing automation experience that they have. Jimmy, if there's anything I missed in there, feel free to dive in and just kind of give a synopsis, but we'll talk about your company more as we get into this.
Yeah, I mean, it's really simple. We're building for the unified front. Anyone who knows the space a little bit on the e-commerce, the merchants have a lot of apps that they kind of build their tech stack, and our mission is to eliminate it. So right now, email and SMS, soon in the next 30 days, depending on when this comes out, our reviews product comes out. So we attack now $3 billion companies at once. So we're doing what all the great guys have done, and they've built this thing, and now we're just bringing it all together and giving it more tech, or more more marketing tech, but less of a stack. And that's what we're building here.
I love it. Yeah, there's so much technology out there, and it's tricky to know which ones to use and who does it best, and we'll kind of dive into that a little bit. Let's talk a little bit about you before we talk about your company here. Sure. Proximity can influence where you live, what you do, the people you meet, you're influenced, and who you're influenced by. What industries existed where you grew up?
Ooh, that's a great one. So where I grew up, I was actually in a very government space. I grew up in the Washington, D.C. metro area. And everybody thrives to work the 9 to 5 there. And it's why I don't live there anymore. It's where my parents are from. And, my driver would be twofold, I guess. It's very simple. It's like I saw that as the industry. But then on my side, my father, being a first generation immigrant, we came here when I wasn't born here. I was born in Korea. And when we came here, my father was entrepreneurial. He wanted, I guess more business owner-ish, I guess is more of the right word, right? And so he went out and started work, and I kind of learned my work ethic from watching him work 6 days a week, running his own store, and kind of doing that all my life. So I would say my inspiration was like, overall, this is what I saw as the world, but then I see my father figure giving me like a different look, and I, obviously grow from your father, grow from your parents, and it's probably why I'm a workaholic today.
Yeah, I agree. I'm on the same path that you're on.
Yeah.
It's interesting that if you look at famous stars or athletes or musicians, actors, they tend to follow the models that they have in their life, which oftentimes are their parents. Yours being an entrepreneur sounds like you followed in that track, which is great. What was your very first job, not in high school or college, but your very first job in life, if you can recall?
All right. So are we talking official or unofficial? Because there's two different words there for me. So unofficially, right, I was mowing lawns, selling lemonade stands, like snow shoveling services until I could actually get a job, right? So for the first, when I was between the age of 11, 12, every season just meant I had something different to do. Grass cutting, snow shoveling, it's hot, lemonade selling, whatever it might have been. So I was always kind of entrepreneurial in that I guess the fact of love of money when I was young and wanting to buy things was my driver probably back then, but that's why I did it. But I understood that you had to work hard to get that money. So we did everything. I remember one summer I was covered in poison ivy because I was doing yard work, just what I wanted to do to make money, right? My first official job actually that I got paid for on a W-2 would be, I was a dishwasher at a pizza shop. It was just the only thing that was available. It's the closest walking distance place that would hire me. That's basically how it started. It was about a half a mile walk to the pizza shop.
Got it. Great. Yeah. I mean, you could see in the DNA that you have it's all about, providing, building, working, but the outcome You wanted to make money,
Yeah.
which is great. So let's talk then a little bit more professionally in your career.
Yeah.
So walk me through the progression a bit of where you started and really what shaped your entrepreneurial direction in the business world, starting with your
Yeah.
career.
I guess if I look at careers, right, real things that I did. So I went to school. I went to Penn State, actually, and actually didn't finish. And the reality of not finishing was the pure fact I wasn't sure that's what I wanted to do in life. And it all started with one summer. One summer, I went from my normal job. So I was washing cars as a lot attendant towards the time I was in college. And one summer, I went back to get my job to be a lot attendant. And they told me that there was no roles open. But they said, hey, Jimmy, you're 18 now. You know, you can sell cars. You've been around these cars for the last 2 years, like washing them. Why don't you sell them? And that's kind of how my life started. I went over and I said, okay, being bright-eyed, bushy-tailed. I had no idea, man. I just talked to everybody. And well, being non-picky and non-judgmental in sales is actually a very big superpower, apparently. And I didn't know I had that. I was just naive, right? But I talked to everyone. I knew everything about every car, all the engines, all the switches, all the things, because I played with them all, right? So I was able to talk to a customer, and they probably thought I was some young little kid, and they thought it was exciting. So I did really well. My first month, I was actually the salesman of the month. My first month in, I made a $14,000 paycheck my first month selling cars, and well, I just never made it back to school. What ended up with doing that was I was ambitious. I sold cars for a couple of years, and then I got bored. I said, I don't want to do this anymore. I want to do more. So they gave me an opportunity to do finance, and no idea that I was going to learn finance. I shipped off to Kansas City for a couple of weeks, learned all these talk tracks, compliance, and laws. Next thing I know, I'm in finance. Then next thing happens, I continue growing, and I'm in charge of finance. I'm the finance director at this point. Again, no degree, no whatever, but I'm just good at selling, and that helped got me there, right? And then I got a phone call, and suddenly I'm running 3 Saturn stores. So it was kind of a cool progression. At the age of 25, I was running 3 Saturn stores. I remember sitting at this big General Motors conference, and I'm like the youngest kid. I look like a lot attendant that's supposed to be in there because I'm Asian. So I look 10 years younger. I'm in my 40s now, and people always say I'm in like 30s probably, right? So like, back in my 20s, I looked like I was like 12. And so here I am at General Motors and stuff, but then they call the top 10, dealerships in that region, and suddenly here we are, right? So we're performing. So that's kind of where I learned. And then that's when my first industry kind of popped, right? So in 2008, when the bankruptcy happened in the world, right? The first big recession, General Motors got popped, and Saturn was no longer going to be in existence. So I had a decision to make at that point. And the owner at that company offered me an equity stake in their new Kia dealerships they were opening up, but I knew this was the one I wanted to do forever, and I always wanted to go do something myself. So at that time, I had met this guy, a friend. His name was Anik, and basically what happened was he was doing this thing. He was selling online. He was doing affiliate marketing. He was teaching people how to do things online, and he had a business that was operating 80, 90 people, and he needed some operational help. So I needed a kind of a unique barter. I said, look, I'm ready to make the career change. I'll come help you with operations because that's what I've learned and I understand that side. If you could teach me what you do from marketing to copy and email and everything else. And so this is like 2007, 2008. And so I started learning. I took a huge pay cut. 25% of what I had, I sold my home. I went to an apartment, but I wanted to learn. So for the next 2-3 years, I just grinded and learned. And I just learned everything about the business and how it operates. And then I jumped off to go start my first one. And we always had this understanding up front, like I was going to do that, right? So that's when I jumped out to start my new business. It was first was a solo entrepreneur. I would build email lists. Basically, I'd run Facebook ads for targeted opt-in products like an ebook or something. They would opt in, and then I'd promote them third-party affiliate products, and then I'd earn a commission. That's how it started. Then I said, I want to teach people how to do that. So then I went off and taught people how to do that by creating courses to do that, right? And so I would use that, leverage my email marketing that I was learning, and to be able to kind of drive revenue. And then that led me into the weirdest way that started to kind of take off at the same time while a investment opportunity came up on my table. So a friend of mine at that time, he was running this retail boutique store in Las Vegas, and they had gotten a PO from PacSun for 50 grand, and they couldn't afford it. And so they knew that I had money, and they came to me and said, hey, do you want to, let us borrow 50 grand? I don't know. I said, sure. And I let him borrow it. And over the next couple months, I got to learn about his business. And I said, hey, man, I really have a crazy idea for you. If you let me partner, I'll take you and we can go on this fun journey, but only if you're ready to do it. And that's what we did. So I converted that money into it. And the first thing I did was made an online store, an e-commerce store on Shopify, right? And suddenly, and this is 2012, 2013, we start the store, things start moving. And then next thing we know, we are no longer a retail storefront. We're completely D2C, we're house brand and all that good stuff. So it was a really cool experience. And at that same time, while I was running that on the marketing side, I was running my other business, and that one evolved from this education business into a software company next, because suddenly I realized there was all these little things that I needed to do that were really annoying and tedious, and I was tired of paying people. So I started building those tools in-house and then eventually selling them. So like I was doing a lot of things, and all that time I was using email, and this problem that we have, we couldn't find the tools that we wanted to do it. And at that time, I'm super entrepreneurial. So I'm like, yeah, guys, let's just put some money together. This is easy. Let's go build this little tool to do it for ourselves. That's actually the birth of Sendlane. It was a terrible tool at first, but it did the one thing that mattered most, which was deliver email, right? Everything else, kind of janky. You had to click some things. This corner edge didn't work really well, but it was okay. That's all we wanted. It was just the three of us, and we were just here to make it to run our own programs the way we wanted to run it. So that's how the start of Sendlane happened. And also with the other two businesses, so basically with those, I'll kind of go in the e-commerce one, that one first. In 2017, we exited our partnership. The easiest way I always say it, and he always laughs when I say this, I'm a capitalist and he's not. And I wanted to keep pushing the gas, and he wanted to pump the brakes because it was making the brand uncool as we're scaling north of $10 million. And he felt that, and this is 2016, 17. So like it was in the earlier days. And he didn't like the fact that a brand was going out. Of course, we look at Supreme now. It was a men's streetwear clothing. So we look at Supreme now and we're like, shit, we could have been that. But we had all the right influence to do it. But anyways, we parted ways. He went off to go start this crazy podcast on Sirius Radio and stuff. So it's pretty cool. Like, we all evolve. The other business, I was also bored about. I always kick myself, but I had this great cash operating business. It was a big cash cow for me. It had a lot of people on subscription, little micro subscriptions. I had product sales happening. And because I was bored and it wasn't challenging anymore, I sold it. I sold the company. I sold all the assets. A couple of the products have sold and resold. Recently, just one of my products got reacquired again. I was like, well, that's cool.
Wow.
Right?
That's crazy.
Yeah, it was a product called Doodly. It was a whiteboard animation video tool. And I built it and I sold it. And then they continued building on. They sold it again to a larger company now recently. So it's kind of moved up the chain in its own way. So
wow.
Yeah.
Lots of innovation. That sounds like a really good track to get into the business you're in today. I look at business as marketing and innovation. Those are the two things you have to keep building upon. And you're kind of right in the middle of it with the marketing and the innovation side of it. Where do you see the product? There's a landscape of email marketing companies and technologies out there, but what is it that you guys do differently or maybe do better than other companies in the space you're in?
Yeah, immediately we're unified. So we're not just email, we're email and SMS, and that eliminates us to two companies really in the market, just us and another company, right? Everybody else in this space doesn't do it well. Maybe 3, 4, there's some outliers, but if I look at it in like retrospective, like real customers and stuff, probably a couple of us in the market, right? A lot of the people in the market, I think, are not really thinking the same way we are, or they lack deficiencies in areas that are important. So to us, like I always say, like, our products in immediate differentiation starts there. Now, there is a lot of things that we're different on this product side, and I'm not going to get into nitty gritty with it, but like we just do the things that are real inherent problems that people are probably facing today on their current platform. So a lot of times when I'm out there talking about our platform, I'm always like, here's like 11 things that people wish they could do on a product. We do those things because there are things that as a marketer I needed to do, and I believed I needed to do, so I've built it that way. Unlike others. So like a pure perfect example is the ability that we're the only one that does multi-store. And what that means is I've got 2 Shopify stores, right? On my competitors, you've got to go open up 2 accounts. On Sendlane, you open up 1 account, right? It's a big time savings, big cost savings, and also just makes more sense, right? Especially if it's branded to USA and Canada. Why do you need 2 different accounts to mail those when you should be able to do it out of 1? So there's things like that kind of inherently happen. Wasn't on purpose. I didn't build the product for differentiators. I built the product and it just happened because these are the natural product thought processes that I had when I was building this product.
Got it. Great. So what's the outcome? What's the biggest benefit a user would get from your product? Not getting all the details, but high level, they sign up, they're using your platform, like, boom, you're going to do these things for them and they're just going to love it for it.
Yeah, it saves time, makes you money. Those are the 2 things we do.
I love it. Simple, easy, and for business owners, totally makes sense.
Yeah.
In fact, I wish I was an e-commerce company because I would utilize you guys, but we're in a different business. Yeah. But I'm sure we can talk after. You've raised capital for the company, Series A, Series B round. Is that correct?
Yes, correct. Seed, A, B.
Okay, seed AB.
Yep.
Raising capital is a journey. What did you know about raising capital before you began?
I knew nothing at all.
Wow. Okay, well, we have listeners right now on pins and needles listening to what you're about to say next.
Okay. All right. So I'm going to go back. I'm going to go back to 2017. Okay. And we're going to zap back to the first time I said, I think we need to raise capital to build this. This is actually really expensive, right? It's SaaS. It's very expensive. And things didn't work. So I said, well, what do I have to do? Well, first I did the typical thing. I went online, I read things, I found some great resources, people like Jason and Saster.com, for example, and like, Brett Fox on Quora. Like there were all these different people who got talking about different things that came into fundraising. I just learned. And what I learned at the core of it was one very simple thing when I first started, is that it basically is a numbers game, right? And I'm used to that in my life. I've always been in sales. So I realized it must be a numbers game and it must be a sales motion. So the initial thought process was, okay, no problem. I need to make a pitch deck and then I need to build a list. So what I did was I built a list and I just attacked. I don't have it handy. Let me see if I have it. This would be awesome. Let me pull it up real quick because live I can pull up a really cool. I don't know if you can see that, but right there, that's like an infographic. I can send it to you if you want to post it up, but I made this infographic back in 2018 after I did my first raise because first, I didn't know what I was doing. Secondly, I was so proud of what I did that I wanted to make an infographic. But here, I'm going to tell you about the numbers. I created a list of 2,728 venture capitalist firms, right? And from that, I booked 135 first meetings, okay? I had 74 virtual phone meetings and 61 in-person meetings, okay? Of those 95, 21% of those went into a second call with me. From there, 30% went to a third call with me, and 9% went to a fourth call with me. Okay, that ended up landing me 3 term sheets. Okay,
that's wild.
So why I say that is it took a heck of a lot of time, energy, and a lot of freaking no's and a lot of time wasted. And so that was my first raise. And let me tell you, like I'll kind of progress you through what I learned now, right? So a lot of things that I learned in the initial days was, I did anything that the person asked me to do, which was dumb. They would ask me for this data, that data, and I would just give anything that to get the person to like talk to me, right? The second thing I did was I transformed out of who I was. And you know what I think of what I mean by that is like, I'm a guy who, I'm wearing a hat. I get on calls. This is me. I'm at meetings. I speak on stage with a hat on. I like hats. I like shirts. I like, like t-shirts, right? And I tried to be someone different. I remember when I started my journey, when I was in person, I would wear the button-up shirt, nice stuff. By the end of the event, was my term sheets all came from places where I was either wearing shorts, a hat, or both, a combination of it, right? And what I mean that was I was real. I was me at that point.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I started changing to me because I was kind of tired of getting no's and realizing I don't fit the bucket, right? I don't have the background. I don't have the education background. I don't have anything. I just have the pure business background. So that leads me to my A, right? So through the seed, right? Here's what I did. I took the seed and then I took in debt along the way. I did revenue-based financing along the way because I needed to get myself to a certain point. And I was very thoughtful that I understood exactly what the dollars were needed to be used for and how to get to my next point, right? When it came
for the listeners that don't know what that is, explain that type of debt financing.
So if your company is profitable or you have a good close, you can go out and get people to give you an advance essentially, and you pay back based around how much revenue you're generating. A percentage of that goes back until it's paid off, of course, with interest. So it's a good stage of financing if you are in a good stage with the company. Don't do it if you're burning money, if you're on a negative growth trajectory. We were moving up and to the right. Things were going positive, and we were basically like, I would say ramen profitable at that point because we were bootstrapped essentially until that point. So we just always kept that mantra as much as we could, right? And we raised some debt along the way, and eventually we went to my Series A. And my Series A, after that learning experience, this is what I did this second time, and it was very different. I didn't do all the sourcing myself. I took a list that I downloaded off Crunchbase and different places, and I sent it off on Upwork, and I hired some people to go get me the information. Who is the person? Where's their LinkedIn? Give me all that stuff. Then I took it and uploaded to my free HubSpot account, and I put it into a cycle. Basically, I created deal kabans, and I basically made a flow of exactly what needs to happen. First touch, second touch, third touch, automate those, make them tasks for myself so that every day I got on it and I knew exactly I need to email these 6 people, I need to call those 2 people and try to follow up with these people. And I made it a complete sales process. And in fact, I even put a hard date on my raise, which is crazy, but I did it. And I said, I'm closing this round on 331. If you're in on 331. That's what all my term sheets came in, of course, on that day, right? But I still had to do that, right?
Yeah.
Because it was important. I ended up getting like 4 or 5 term sheets at that point, right? So like it works. And, I got that down. Secondly, I got my pitch down. We like, as founders, we like to talk about everything and anything and all the minuscule details about our business and all the things. Let me tell you something. I'm going to be honest. They don't give a crap. They give a crap about 2 things. 1, what problem are you solving? And 2, how much money can they make? The rest of it is just things that are details that they care about, right?
Yeah.
So you need to pitch that. What problem are you solving? Actually, 30 things. How big is the market and how much money can they make off this? And can we do this together, right? And so that's what they care about. And I focused the pitch around it. It'd be a 10-page deck, no more than 10 pages. I always tell people, don't go ever more than 10 pages. If you are, you're just doing yourself a disservice. Go 10. I know you have a lot to say, but find 10. Get right to it. Problem, solution. Here's what we're doing. Here's why we're awesome. Here's what we're cool at. Here's why we're going to win. And ultimately, this is what we need directly, right? And so I figured that kind of formula out as well. Obviously, thankfully to all the other resources on the web, kind of helped me kind of guide that along. And it works absolutely, right? And then the second piece of thing that I learned from that first raise is don't spin wheels. And what I mean by that is very simple. If an investor is interested, they're interested. And what I mean is, this is much like sales. Like the first call, it's everything. If that first call or first meet, if you can't get the person to click and hit, it's done, dude. You're just fighting against the battle that you're not going to get a good deal on, and they might just still drop you anyways. But the ones, every time I look back at my seed investment, every one that I did it, I got a deal that same day or the next day on paper. They jump, they move fast. Same thing happened with this one. They move fast when they're ready, right? Because they get it. And I think that's where I say, don't waste time. So I understood that and said, I'm not going to waste time. And then the third thing is just, it's just staying on top of it and staying in front of it the whole time and making sure that you're just following your process. If you laid a foundation down, which is following a sales process and putting a thing like, the first meeting, second meeting, third meeting, like demos and all that stuff, basically just the same thing like you would do in a normal sales process, you literally follow that path and you take people down a process and you decline. When they tell you no, you put them in your decline, close lost. You lost that one. And remember, it's a numbers game, so you have to lose a bunch. So the second one was much easier of a raise for me. Obviously, the business was in a better place, so it helped a lot. But it was just easier because I came experienced. And I needed that raise in less than 60 days on the Series A. So that was cool. And then our Series B was easy. The business was moving, and our investors pulled out another check and wrote another check. So
that's great. So when you're doing this as a first-time founder, and there's a lot of listeners out there that are thinking about building business, they're entrepreneurial minded, thinking about starting something, how do you know how much equity to give up when you're striking a deal with investors?
Man, what a great question. So I don't have a good answer for that. I think it's all about what your goal and intentions are within your business and how fast you want to move on it and how confident you are with it. Underraising is a problem, and overraising is a problem just as much as getting it right on target. And the problem with the startup is that often, whatever you tell me your budget is, you're probably going to miss it or you're going to exceed it. One of the two things are going to happen because it's really hard to predict at that early stage when you're raising money. Obviously, when it gets more repeatable into growth stage, it's not as big of a deal, but it's really hard. So what I tell people is very simple. Work it backwards. Very simple. Work it backwards. How much money do you think you need, right? Then add like 20% on top of that because you're wrong and you probably need 20% more. Throw a little bit more on that. And then you go, well, where am I in my company and what am I willing to give up? It's very simple. What am I willing to personally accept? Don't let the market set the rate. Accept what you want to feel that you want to give up. And then go to market with it. And hopefully you're right about it and see how you're validated. Even if you get crappier offers, keep going. Too many people, I think, take the first offer they get or they start attaching that first offer as the meaningful number. I can tell you in my last round, my valuations were very, very long, very double in size, right? Doesn't mean that you should take your top one or your bottom one. There's so many other details that come into place with the raise outside of simply the fact that you have that. But yeah, it's this is what I tell people. If I'm at a seed stage or pre-seed stage and I have nothing really to do except the concept and someone's willing to give me $1 million, 20%, take it. Why?
Yeah.
You have nothing. If you walk away, you have zero. Right now, you have an opportunity. Now, if you have a $10 million company and someone's giving you something and it's a terrible deal, of course you should walk away. But it all depends on the situational, right? And that money is going to help you go. And I know people get so strung up on the cost and valuation, but I like to remind everybody always that none of it matters if no one buys you or you don't IPO.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
And most companies die. We know this. 90% of startups die.
Yeah.
1% of what is it? 1% of companies get venture backed, and like half a percentage of get to a Series A. Like, it's an insane number. So
Yeah.
why pick over the thing that doesn't matter today?
Yeah. No, that's great advice. It's really good advice. And your company now, if you look at the company, you raise your Series A and Series B. What's the growth been like? How big are you? Are you national? Are you international? Give us a little background of Sendlane.
Yeah. So our growth has been great. One of the biggest things that we had to refine out. So going back to that story, I didn't go through all of it, but we started Sendlane as one thing, and then we pivoted in 2020 into another thing. So we pivoted into e-commerce in 2020. So we had to basically flip our revenue and then take off on our revenue. It was kind of an interesting little move that we had to do. Basically, we've been declining, and we still are declining, a legacy business in the company, and we've been skyrocketing in our new business of our new platform. So it's been a little bit juggle trick, but we're growing over 100% year over year. So like things are moving, right? Things are hustling, busting. We're lean team, I would say, of about 80 people total. I always say lean because we're spread thin, but I believe in lean run. It's not good to be bloated, so we run lean and run mean. And what else? What else? What was the last part of the question you had?
Yeah, just in terms, are you local? Are you global?
We're remote. We're global. We are USA based, and I and most of my team are in San Diego, meaning like my leadership and my some of my immediate team, but a lot of the team is all over the United States, some international, some Canada, all that good stuff. So we've gotten into a good place. It's funny. We started as a remote company. So we went remote, went to a company into person. And then when we went remote, what was fun, we went into something I already had called Friday Protocol. Friday Protocol was our work from home days anyways that I had already set up in the company. And on those Friday protocols was basically you check in, do a scrum. Here's what I'm working on today. Here's what I worked on yesterday in a chat. And we move off and get to work, right? So we just instituted that stuck. And now we just run Friday Protocol every day in life.
I love that. Pivots are part of companies. They do it to innovate. They do it to protect themselves, to survive. When you did it, was it a growth move, or was it just a reassessment of where the real opportunity was in the future?
It was a niche down move, actually. We were trying to do everything for everybody. We were trying to be everything for everybody and all in one for anybody. We could do anybody, and realize when you try to be for everybody, you're a jack of none. It was really hard to be able to service everybody because you'd hear so many different user stories that you wouldn't know what to do. And I looked at myself and I said, well, let's look back at my personal experience. Where is it that I believe that the tech is the most lacking? Where is it the place that I believe that I could really help support? And naturally, it was e-commerce. And so I built that, and we pivoted. So it took 2 years to pivot. It was like 2019 to 2021. We had to rebuild. We basically rebuilt the entire platform from the ground up. We basically sold on another platform, our old platform, for 2 years while we were building it at the same time. So we would sell to not anybody, but most anybody who had a legitimate business that needed email marketing needs, right? We were just did what we had to do to keep the funds going, right? And then with that new launch of product, we started going to market, and then it's been kind of a heck of a ride finding PMF, of course. And I would say that we truly found PMF. Well, I take it back. We believe we found PMF around 6 to 8 months ago, probably at this point, not even that long ago. Before then, it was just ground and pound sales. Now it's inbound leads and much better looks and being brought up by competitors and so forth. So it's a unique little thing that I would say that happened in the business, and I still don't know how to kind of give the right words for it. But the answer is PMF is very simple. You can say yes to everything. That's the way I say it. Your audience, they ask you a question, your answer is yes. That means you have PMF.
Yeah, I got it. That's great. Every company that we've talked to has done a pivot. In fact, during COVID, there was companies that went out of business if they didn't make a change or didn't adapt. We, as a company, we help founders and startups hire, scale, and that's when COVID hit. It made it easier for us because companies could hire anywhere.
Yep.
And it was mainly US. And then we started to get a ton of requests for companies asking if they could hire people in Mexico or Canada or South America, Eastern Europe, wherever it was. And we didn't have a structure to set up to do that and support them. So we had to make a pivot. And our pivot was, they need compliance, they need HR, they need understanding of like what the talent pools look like, and also how to hire and onboard and offboard. And we didn't have that, and we weren't going to build it.
Yep.
So what we ended up doing is we partnered with a company came out of MIT, and we said, look, you guys provide HR, you provide payroll. we actually go out and find people anywhere. And so we form this partnership. Now in 50 countries, we're in 5 continents where we can serve, candidates within 48 hours to people that are looking to hire. And it's a free HR support platform, and everything's very streamlined and smooth. But because of COVID, if we didn't pivot, we'd probably be in a different stage. And it's great to know that even in downtimes or times that you're not sure you can create a solution or a product, you can innovate if you think deeply and figure out really what's the frustration you're trying to deliver and support and provide a solution for, and be able to do it in a way that makes sense for your customers. So pivots are, I think, by far the most interesting part of a company, because it's always a journey. You're going to go up and down, and figuring out where you go next is always the question. So it's great that you're able to do that.
Yeah, pivoting
they say that.
Just so you know, pivoting absolutely sucks. It's not fun, but it's necessary evil. And you're right. Like I've seen plenty of companies die without the pivot. They just fizzle away. They can't handle it. You've got to pivot and you got to innovate. Those are the 2 things I've learned in this market.
Yeah, that's great. Some of the best coaches and strategists out there in business say that 80% of business is psychology, 20% is strategy. When it comes to psychology, you as the leader, what sort of methodologies or tools do you use to stay positive in good and bad times?
Yeah, that's a great question. So we exercise pretty extreme transparency with this company. We celebrate our wins, we talk about our losses, and we do a lot of retrospective on it. To me, it's not just about only the wins and the positive, but always looking at problems and understanding them, and then being able to come to a decision together to what's the best way, know what to do next time it happens, or be aware to solve that problem. So I always say, our culture in our company, we always say don't bring the problem, bring the solution, right? It's the same way we think about with everything. So I do a lot of transparency. So let me tell you about some of the things I do, which are cool. Every 2 weeks, I run this thing called an open letter. I have over 100 of them now, I think, at this point. And every 2 weeks, I run this letter. And it's basically telling where are we on revenue? How are we doing? What people are still here? What people are no longer here? And then any announcements, any sharing, any holidays, any hiring. And then, of course, kind of like my outlook into the next 2 weeks, right? So I do that. We do an all hands on Monday, in which we have all the leaders come up and talk about their high level data and KPIs and how we are tracking to the success of the company and so forth. So we do a lot of that to basically keep people aware, because I think what I've learned, at least personally, and it's been a long time since I've had a job, but for me, as long as you know what's going on, you feel better about things, right? So to me, positivity is, hey, we knew that customer was going to churn. We talked about it openly with everybody, say, this large customer is going to churn, guys. Just know that it's up front. So when it happens, it's actually not so shocking and glaring. I think a lot of times the problem with that is most people try to spin only positive light and don't talk about the negative. But by talking about the negative, you actually bring positivity into the company at the same time. So it's how I look at it.
That's great. Yeah, that's great. And I believe transparency also breeds more transparency. People are more open to wanting to share their thoughts if you are. So
yeah,
that's really great. What inspires and motivates you today, and what keeps you inspired and motivated for your team?
Well, I guess what motivates me today, are you talking about at a personal level or at a company level?
At a personal level, as a leader for your company.
Got it. What motivates me today? It's interesting. I was just telling someone this as an entrepreneur. What I always have is when I take people and we hire people, we trust them obviously to do their job, but then they start elevating, doing cool things, and then they leave our company, right? And this is going to sound weird, but I'm always proud when I see someone go leave my company and go do something even bigger, better, get a salary rate and kind. So in my weird drive for people and being a leader is I want to empower them. I want to get them in front of anything they can try. And I want them to also fail at it too, because failing is important, and being able to talk about it and working on making it better. So for me, if I'm as a leader, my empowerment at the people level is very simple. I just want to see good people do good things and get the best out of their career to move on to the next part of their life. I understand that everyone's going to move on from me at one time or another, including myself from Sendlane one day, right? And I think if you can create the best experience, I hope that some of these guys one day, 10 years from now, goes, man, that Sendlane or that Jimmy or that Sendlane was great on my career. It helped me get to where I am today. And that to me is the most empowering thing that I do, right? On a business level that I think about. And I give a lot of people chances. We hire within quite often. Some of my leaders today are people that started 4 to 6 years ago that have scaled with me and been able to grow into their roles too as well. So
wow.
Yeah.
That's really cool. Kind of stole the thunder. I was going to ask you about, what makes your company great and what makes it great to work for you. But it sounds like you kind of already answered that, which is you serve first and you support others, whether they're going to stay with you or move on. You want to have them be successful and also be able to support them in their journey, in their careers,
Yeah.
which,
It's my
you know,
job too, right? As a boss, entrepreneur, employee, it's my job to make that person successful. It is. It's
yeah,
not their job. It's a mutual thing. And if I hire someone, I don't hire them just because they're going to carry all the weight on their shoulders, because I need to help them be better at what they're doing to help them make the company move forward, right? So
yeah,
I think about it as both ways. It's not one way. It's not one-sided. A job is both ways when I think about it.
yeah, that's great. Really cool. As the company evolves, you said something's coming out in 30 days. What's on the roadmap of innovation and where do you go from here?
Yeah, the roadmap is clear for us. The next 2 years, the next 18 to 24 months is really built around that unification story I was telling you about.
Hmm.
The product reviews product is another product that we're really building. There's a billion-dollar behemoth in this market as well, too, that kind of leads the space. And we're coming out with it at a parity level so that we can go out there and attack their clients and say, hey, like we've got it all now under one roof again, right? So we're excited about that. And then we start to continue to cycle that and attack the next one and the next one. So for us, it's all about what I call the marketer stack. It's what the typical Shopify or e-commerce stack owner has is their stack. We're looking to eliminate it and become a single stack unit. So in the future, by 2025, my goal is very simple. If you're a Shopify BigCommerce owner, you should have one marketing tool. It's Sendlane, attaches and does everything you need for your retention marketing.
I love it. Wow. You presented a lot. I can tell you've got it down, and also is very authentic because you're solving a problem that there's a lot of Shopify accounts and owners out there, I'm sure, are going to be thinking about, Sendlane, where do we find them again?
Yeah.
So that's great. You've got an amazing journey and lots of growth ahead, it sounds like. If companies want to reach out and touch base with you, where would they find you? Where would they find Sendlane?
Sure. Obviously, Sendlane is at sendlane.com, but to find me, I'm very active in two places. I'm active on Twitter. My Twitter is Yo Jimmy Kim, so YO Jimmy Kim, so Yo Jimmy Kim. And then on LinkedIn, just Jimmy Kim. You can find me on social. I'm very active on both of them. I do respond to DMs. I do respond to people's messages. I'm a big believer of that. It's my inner sales guy mentality that wants to tell people no as well too. Being clear answers, right? When people cold message me, I tell them, hey, sounds cool, but not for me, man. So they'll either stop messaging me. And you know how people complain about that often. I'm like, just tell them no and they'll stop messaging you, dude. And so for me, I just tell them no. It's very easy. So I will always respond, but that's where I'm at. I like to drop a lot of strategical things. I don't talk about business as much as more strategy around what I teach around email and SMS and retention marketing. So my social marketing is very much around the practitioner side because that's what I really know best. And that's what I love talking about.
Got it. That's great. Leave us with a message to entrepreneurs that are thinking about taking that step and building their dream. What advice would you give them to kind of nudge them forward?
You know, it's not as much of a nudge thing, but as more of an advice piece. And the advice piece is very much simple. If you're going to do it, go all in or don't do it at all. And what I mean is focus. One of the things that I always kick myself as I look back into the world is I tried to do everything. I tried to be a little bit of everything. I was building my e-commerce company, retail store, while I was doing my software company, while I was kind of building Sendlane at the same time. It was a bad idea. If I would have put all that energy into just one thing and just hyper-focused it, I would have done it 3 times faster, probably 10 times faster. And so my advice is, if you're going to do it, go all in or don't do it at all. Please don't half-ass it. I understand that, like building at night and all that stuff, but like get to a place where you can do it all at once, because you will do much faster if you put all your mind to it and not get spread thin. So
and focus on the one company you're building versus 3 or 4 at a time.
Correct. It's too hard.
Yeah.
It really is. And
Yeah.
I know some people, we're not all Elon Musk. We can't look at Elon and be like, we'll just build $1 billion company. We're humans. Elon's an alien. I don't know what he is, but all I know is he's great and amazing, and we can't follow his footsteps because he is just special. So Stop trying to do it. Just focus, get one successful, and then you can worry about expanding and doing other things, hiring a president or CEO to run your thing and go build the next one, right? I'm going to do that eventually, right? When the company gets large, 1,000 people, I'm not going to be interested in running this company. That's not me. I want to go build. I'm a builder, right? So I'll probably go build again, and I'll probably start my next one and go start from zero again. But that's fun.
Yeah, that's great. Lastly, AI has had so many breakthroughs recently, and seems like the whole world's opened their eyes to what it really is, what it can be. In your platform, does AI exist? Do you see a fit for it in the future? Where does it sit there?
Yeah, AI. I love AI. I think it's the greatest time saver ever created so far in life, and it's going to be continuously there. It's never going to replace the humans. It's just going to evolve the way the humans need to change things. No different when Photoshop came out for designers, right? It's no different. It's just helping them get better at it. In our platform, we don't really do anything really with it because it's really content and AI, like the machine learning automation. We do a lot of that already. We just don't call it AI. So like, it's the same thing. It's making decisions based around behind input that's coming in from a behavioral and action point, and it's automating. How do I see in the future? Well, without getting into too much, part of our mission of unification allows us to get into a place of optimization. And the goal behind, I hope to see with what happens with AI machine learning over the next 2-3 years with all the intelligence, is that we can actually have optimization occur automatically. So it's not static. It's you send it, you're doing your everyday work, and it's auto optimizing in the background based around what you want to do. So that's how I look in the future. But I think AI is the greatest time saver. I think there's a lot of things, and we're way too early to even know what we're about to walk into right now. So it's exciting, man. Exciting times.
Yeah. Really cool. That's great.
Yeah.
Well, before we wrap up, I just want to give a huge shout out to you, Jimmy, for joining us today, and all of our listeners that are listening. It means the world to me that you choose to spend time with us. And just want to share that my name is Jake Aaron Villarreal. I'm signing off for now, but can't wait to connect with you all again soon on our next episode. Take care. Before we wrap up, I want to give a big shout out to all the entrepreneurs that have joined to make this podcast possible, and for all the listeners for listening. It means the world to me that you chose to spend your time with us today. I'm your host, Jake Aaron Villarreal, signing off for now, but can't wait to connect with you all soon on the next episode. Take care. This show is sponsored by Match Relevant, a company that helps venture-backed startups find the best people in the market, and they do it in 3 simple steps. First, they sit down with founders to understand their story. Second, they tell their story into multiple candidate channels. And third, they schedule interviews within 48 hours. Find us at matchrelevant.com to learn more about how we do it.